know, we're about halfway through the legislative session, and I'm really sensing the momentum or focus is changing to the upcoming two-year budget.
Yes, absolutely. This week on the floor, we can't even get anybody to meet with us. We have to pull them off the floor because they're busy trying to get the policy bills passed, and then they're going to be heading right into the biennial budget.
The biennial budget that the governor proposed already had us, like, what, $4.5 billion short of revenue. Right. And I think the situation is maybe getting worse.
Well, we heard a few weeks ago that the projected revenue forecast is coming up in March, just in a few, I think in almost a few days, is going to be worse.
You know, Sue, you and I can talk about the cuts and the impacts that they have, but nothing speaks to the real impacts than people who are actually affected by these reductions.
I've been involved in disability advocacy continuously since 1994, and we are cutting things that I never would have imagined, and that's not an understatement. People living independently, which would kind of seem like the ultimate non-partisan family value. The idea that people would be free to live in their own home. Not only is it far cheaper, but it also would seem morally the right thing to do. And I would never have envisioned that we would cut that.
These proposed cuts to Medicaid Personal Care are awful. Some people are going to be really hurt. Maybe everybody is. But the people that have the less disabilities, some of them really depend on these few hours a week that they get. And I'm a little bit worried about their independence. I'm worried about others that have significant disabilities that they need in every one of those hours. This is really, really hard cut.
They cut all my hours, so I don't have anybody. So all these cuts is a very bad idea.
All the reductions to other services, families really need support to take care of their sons and daughters is one aspect, and people need to live independently as they can in their communities. And Medicaid Personal Care is one of the ways that people are able to do that.
Today we had a great rally that focused on the cuts to Medicaid Personal Care, some of the most basic supports that people have.
Here's a few highlights from that rally. Home is where my heart is.
Taking away hours we need by our caregivers is forcing additional suffering by many of us, and unfortunately is causing death. That's why I want you all, and you're all responsible for this, each and every one of you, I want eye-to-eye contact with you. I want you to look in a mirror and see what looks back at you, what you're doing to us. There, but for the grace of God, could be you. Next step down the road, walk on by, it's you.
The thing I'm here to talk about is a new waiver that's coming out from the federal government. It's part of health care reform. Now, this waiver won't be ready until October, but we need to get ready to apply for it now, because it takes time to do that. We need to give them a little push, and that push comes in the form of getting legislators to put a proviso in the budget and ask them to direct the SHS to apply for the Community First Choice option that will bring in almost $51 million a year to our state. Do you think they'd have to be making these cuts to Medicaid Personal Care if they had that kind of extra money coming in every year?
It's looking out for other people. It's time to look out for us. Washington State, you need to get it going in the right direction again. Close corporate tax loopholes. That's where we'll get the money to restore Medicaid Personal Care hours.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Cuts to home care, got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Cuts to home care, got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
You know, I was thinking that I hope that everybody that watches these podcasts will not just watch them, but commit themselves to taking an action, to come down to an advocacy day over the next 3 or 4 weeks, to write a letter to their legislator, to send an email, or to make a phone call. As simple as making a phone call on the 1-800 line to the legislature could make a tremendous impact to help blunt the effect of these cuts.
You know, sometimes we don't think we make a difference. But if you look what happened in Egypt, you look what happens in Wisconsin, you look at where people aren't happy with what government is doing, they show up and they speak their voice. We need you to do that now.
It's more important than ever for people to come down, put a face on the issue, on the cut that they may experience themselves, and talk to their legislators about that.
This is it for the Olympia Insider.
And don't forget, change is made by those who show up.
We'll see you
at Advocacy Day.